Good morning to everybody, and thank you so much for joining me in this meeting about Lactobacillus acidophilus D2, our probiotic for poultry application. Today we're gonna speak about our probiotic solution with the poultry application, but before to start, just a short introduction about who we are. My name is Simone Barbato. I am the technical and sales manager of the AgroVet division of SACCO. I have a bachelor's degree in agricultural sciences with a master's degree in food industry and enology. After some practical experiences in the wine sector as a winemaker in cellars of Piedmont and Tuscany, I worked for 3 years as regulatory affairs in the Italian Federation of the Chemical Industry. Because of my great interest in the commercial aspect and the biotechnology sector, in my early 30s, I chose to move to CSL SACCO Group, starting a new adventure in the agro-zootechnical division. SACCO System is an Italian family-owned company that offers a large range of innovative products for different sectors, as nutraceutical, dairy, and agrovet. The word system expresses the synergy between our 4 companies, Caificio Clerici, SACCO, Centro Sperimentale del Latte, CSL, and Chemicalia. The older company of the group, Caificio Clerici, has been an Italian leader in rennet production since 1872, and over the years acquired the company called SACCO, specialized in the dairy sector, and the Swedish company Chemicalia. In 2013, the latest newcomer of the family was the Italian culture producer CSL, with a great scientific experience in the lactic acid bacteria production. By 2018, CSL opened a new office in the Asia-Pacific area. The core values of this system are family company, tradition and expertise, creative intelligence, reliability, research and innovation, flexibility with customization for our customers, and knowledge sharing. Today, SACCO System has got 7 production plants and sells product in more than 110 countries worldwide. And in 2018, it generated a total turnover of 108 million euros. We have got 4 different business units. We produce starter culture, probiotics, enzymes and additive coatings, and analytical instruments. This wide range of products find an application in 4 different divisions, which are dairy, health and nutrition, agroveterinary, meat and other foods. Okay. Now let's get down to the topic of today, with a focus on our probiotic for poultry application for laying hens and broilers. Its name is Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 CSL, and as you see by the title chosen for this presentation, it represents a natural solution for the livestock farming of chickens. As you know, in these times, there is a high level of attention about the reduction of chemical inputs, like antibiotics, and at the same time, maintain a good productivity and quality assurance inside the livestock farming. In this regard, probiotics may represent a very useful instrument. Today, different lactic acid bacteria are selected by the companies for probiotics application. The main goal of their application is promoting and maintaining the physiological equilibrium of the gut of the animal, positively affect its production and the natural defense. Quoting Louis Pasteur, in nature, the rule of infinitely small is infinitely large. This equilibrium can be obtained through the use of the right bacteria that can positively interact with the native flora of the gut, promoting the development of a good bacteria and inhibiting the bad ones. But in order to do that, you have to be sure that the selected probiotic bacteria are able to grow inside the gut of the animal. Without a reproduction of these bacteria, you won't observe any results, wasting your money. Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 is a lactic acid bacteria that naturally lives in the chicken gut. So you are and we are sure about its capability to grow in that environment. If you want to produce an effective probiotic, you have to be sure about its development in the environment of its application. That's the reason why we decided to start the research of the proper bacteria from the gut of the chickens. In 1985, we isolated from the gut of a rural old chicken 19 different bacteria. So in our laboratories, we selected the best one for a specific range of characteristics: bioresistance, adhesion to the gut epithelium, resistance to the ionophorus antibiotics, and the freeze-drying process. Among these bacteria, Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 CSL was the best one. And so we submitted to IFSA, the European Safety Agency for Food Security, the request for the recognition of the Qualified Presumption of Safety, QPS, and we obtained it in 2012. 3 years later, we obtained the authorization of the product as a feed additive for laying hens, a gut flora stabilizer, inside the European regulation of the feed additive, the 1831/2003. 2 years later, in 2017, we extended this authorization even for broilers, and in the next year, we are going to complete this spectrum application with all the bird species. So now you know that the bacteria can develop inside the gut, but once there, what can it do? Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 is a homofermentative bacteria which use the sugar to produce lactic acid, useful for energetic purpose, but even for the acidification of the environment and then the inhibition of the pathogen. So there is a direct action against the pathogens and the other unwanted bacteria. But even an indirect action, because the strain competes with them for the nutrients with the so-called competitive exclusion. Moreover, we have scientific evidences about the stimulation of Lactobacillus acidophilus on the immune system of the animals, with a higher production of immunoglobulins and higher absorption of antimicrobial substances by the mucosa tissues. Okay, but what's the point? What are the advantages for you? And especially, what are the economic advantages for you? So, what you get from the introduction of the D2 in your flock management is the eubiosis gut condition, which leads to better animal health, drier droppings, better nutrients absorption with higher meat production, higher number of sellable eggs with better albumin and shell quality. With Lactobacillus acidophilus D2, it's possible to avoid the gut dysbiosis with all the unwanted effects, which are potentially severe for reproductivity and the health of the chicken. We are talking about unbalanced gut flora that may decrease the absorption of the nutrients and the risk with intestinal putrefaction as ammonia and hydrogen sulfide, inflammation of the gut mucosa, bad feed conversion ratio with a reduction in the performance of the chickens, not only under a quantitative point of view, but even for the quality, especially for the laying hens with a slider egg shell. The higher production of putrefactive compounds make the air conditions worse in the poultry environment, with a potential increase in morbidity and mortality. So, as you can imagine, the gut microorganism is one of the main factors affecting the quality of the chicken's production. So, if you control this composition, promoting eubiosis condition, you are applying a sort of prophylaxis rule. Although it's true that we can't foresee the exact effect of dysbiosis, as they vary a lot by chicken in chicken, we have to focus on maintaining a balance in the gut of chickens promoting eubiosis conditions. As soon as we reach this condition, all the productive and economic advantages for your flock will be natural consequences. The gut environment is a battlefield of a constant mutual opposition between beneficial and pathogenic microorganisms. If we have the chickens adding to the weight scale the right bacteria, which can grow inside this environment, we are providing the best requirements for quality production. Over the years, we evaluated the D2 in different environments and farming conditions, including the organic farming. Today, we have got 13 scientific studies published in international journals as the World Poultry Sciences Journal and PLOS ONE. Knowing that the experimental conditions in the laboratory are not the same as in fields, we organize a large number of trials directly on the field, inside livestock farms, about the strain capabilities to foster the productive performance of the animal. All the tests were conducted on both laying hens and broilers. We worked in tight contact with universities and some institutes of zooprophylaxis of different Italian regions. During the first years, we focused about the response of the animal in terms of productive performance. But once we understood the potential of the product, we started searching in new applications in organic farming, evaluating the immunosystem stimulation and the changing in the composition of the gut microflora, especially the reduction in pathogens and metabolome of the chickens. Okay, now that you've seen what the product is and what its origin is, we can move to the results that can be obtained through a proper and continuous administration of the product. Since the first experience in some Italian livestock farming, we observe very important improvements for the productive performance of the chickens. That's the reason why in the early studies we focus our efforts on identifying the most relevant parameters to evaluate the productivity of the animal and the economic return for the farmers. The trials were conducted on both laying hens and broilers, and in this slide I summarize the average improvements with statistical significance that we observe in our experiences, so including the trials in the farms. As you can see, we observe gains in the qualitative and quantitative production, 3% in the number of eggs, 1.5% in the shell thickness, with a reduction in cracked and dirty eggs and wastes, and at the same time a better feed conversion ratio, with a lower amount of ingested feed by the animal and a higher productivity. This last one is very important even for the broiler's experience, where the administration with Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 increased the final weight of the chicken at the slaughtering time of an average 4%, with a simultaneous reduction of ingested feed. Even the level of morbidity and mortality decreased as well as the result of a better general health state of the chickens. So it seems that with Lactobacillus acidophilus, the animals have got an additional source of energy that makes them possible to produce more and better. How can we explain this better utilization of the feeds and their nutrients? So the scientific evaluation clarifies that our strain quickly colonizes the gut of the chickens, especially the crop and the intestine. Here it produces lactic acid, which can be used for the energetic purpose by the animal, but at the same time, this lactic acid decreases the pH, that makes possible the conversion of the nutrients elements from the standard form to the ionic forms, which are better absorbed by the gut mucosa. In this slide, I am referring to the calcium, but we can extend this concept to all the other nutrients. The calcium, in particular, is very important for the growth of the animal and the bones development, important as support for the muscle development in brooders, but even for the resistance and the thickness of the egg shell. As I told you before, the better absorption of natural nutrients is justified by a physiological reason, the pH reduction. But there is even another reason related to the action of Lactobacillus acidophilus on the morphology of the gut tissues. In one of the latest studies, we took in observation the morphometric changes in the gut tissues of the chickens before, during, and after the administration of the strain. What we discovered is that Lactobacillus acidophilus is able to increase the height of the mucosal layer thanks to the higher height and activity of microbial, which represents the viable absorption surface of the gut. So, the better feed conversion ratio of the treated chickens is made possible by the better absorption of the nutrients. Moreover, the latest innovative techniques highlighted and increased the number of globe cells, which are responsible for the production of nutrients. This kind of proteins is very important for the health of the animal because it protects the tissue, reducing the viable surface for the pathogens attack. Higher secretory activity is evidenced by the higher abundance of beta-glucosidase, which was shown higher after the administration of Lactobacillus acidophilus, with a better digestion of fibers. The colonization of the gut environment by Lactobacillus acidophilus affects not only the productive performance of the animal, but even the composition of the flora. As I told you, the high host specificity of the strains has a positive effect on the growth of itself, but even of other beneficial microorganisms, as for instance, Clostridium saccharolyticum and Bifidobacterium, producer of organic acids as butyrate, which are used for energetic purpose by the gut of the animal. The development of the strains reduces with a competitive exclusion the growth of pathogens and unwanted bacteria, as for instance Escherichia coli, coliforms, Clostridia, and Staphylococcus species. The pictures that you see right now represent the data collected during a trial in organic farming production published on Poultry Science in 2016. As the data are expressed in a logarithmic scale, the reduction of the pathogen in the gut of the animal is really important and confirm the action of our probiotic in reducing the pathogen bacteria. That's not the first time that we observed this effect, because previously in 2008, in a study with Professor Gallazzi of the University of Milan, we obtained some encouraging data with a reduction of Clostridium perfringens after the administration of the tube. Especially in organic farming production, where the possibility to use a natural product that can concretely foster the defense and the performance of your flock is very important. And as the antibiotic treatments are off limits, especially in this kind of production, it's essential to prevent the outbreak of the disease. With this aim, we compare our probiotic with others, evaluating the effect of the product on the reduction of pathogen counts in the gut environment. So in one of our trials, the chickens were divided into 3 groups. A first one without any treatment, the control group, a second one treated with Bacillus subtilis spores, and the third one with Lactobacillus acidophilus. According to the results of this trial, Lactobacillus acidophilus was the best strain in reducing the load of the Escherichia coli, coliform, Clostridia, and Staphylococcus bacteria, and colonizing the gut with a quicker development. In the graphs, the different colors of the boxes are related to the different statistical significance of the treatment. The improvement of the immune system is another important goal in livestock farming production. During this study, we observed even an increase in the serum bactericidal activity after the use of the two probiotics, Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bacillus subtilis. It seems that the probiotics help the maintenance of the integrity of intestinal mucosa, enhancing intestinal immunity, increasing at the same time the intestinal absorption of the antibacterial substances. If compared to the control group and the Bacillus group, the animals treated with Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 showed the best immune response to the Newcastle disease virus vaccine, with the higher antibody concentration. As for all the other beneficial results, this difference can be due to the higher capability of our strains to balance the gut environment, increasing the assimilation of nutrients, which are essential for triggering the immunocells to produce antibodies. Promoting eubiosis conditions, Lactobacillus acidophilus favors the absorption of nutrients, reducing at the same time the activity of unwanted putrefactive bacteria and their toxic products. As you can see by the data on the slide, reached during the scientific trial of 1995, the treatment with Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 improved the fecal parameters of the animal. After 6 days of treatment, the stool presented a 6% lower humidity, a reduction of ammonia of 22%, and a drastic reduction in biogenic amines content, which highlights a better utilization of the proteins by the animal. The pathogene was reduced by half, while the spermidine till 90%. Decreasing the content of ammonia in the poultry air, especially with a standing leader, it's very important because it may reduce the stress of the animal as their oxygen demand. That's really important, especially for the broilers farming condition. Lactobacillus acidophilus D2 CSL was the first feed additive for chickens authorized for application in feed and water. Today, the product can be used on all animals or chicks, promoting their colonization during the first days of life. For the water application, when possible, we recommend the use of a dosatron, making more comfortable the formulation of the product. As for any other lactic acid bacteria, it's very important to use dechlorinated water because it's toxic for them, decreasing the amount of alive microorganisms. The product is suitable to be added even to the feed after the preparation of a premixes with a support carrier as sugar or limestone. 2 kg of a premix should be added to 1 ton of feed. Unfortunately, the product at the moment is not palatable because of the sensitivity to the high temperature reached during this process. The product is highly concentrated, so the total amount of product needed is not very high. With 22 grams, you can daily treat a flock of 10,000 chickens. The best way to obtain the highest results is, if possible, to apply a continuous treatment. Anyway, according to the stage of the animal, the specific problems in the farm, and the goal of the treatment, our research and development department may suggest a customized administration according to your needs. Knowing how much important are the costs for livestock farming activities, over the years we developed a return on investment model. Considering the dosage, the period of the treatments, and the improvements obtained in our scientific trial, it's possible to understand how higher will be the revenue by the administration of the D2. For laying hens, we observe a potential revenue between 4 and 10 times of initial investments, while for broilers between 1.5 till 8 times. Be careful that this percentage doesn't include the economic advantages coming from the reduction of morbidity and mortality. It's difficult to estimate in the proper way this aspect, but as you already know, the cost for veterinaries, the healing treatments, and the death of the animal are very high. So, to the final economic revenue, you have to consider even this important saving that we don't estimate in this case, focusing on the most certain calculation. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. Now I'm here available to respond to your question. You can submit your questions right now, or you can think about and sending me questions to the email that you are looking on this slide. Now I give you some time to make your questions, and I'm here available to respond to you. Okay, I received a first question. Is the product suitable to be administered with anticoccidial treatments? Yes, absolutely yes. During our experience, we evaluated even the sensitivity of a product to the anticoccidial treatments, which actually don't represent an obstacle for the use of Lactobacillus acidophilus. It's one of the parameters that we use as a marker for identifying the best bacteria. Moreover, the strain has got a good resistance to the acidic environment for its nature. That's why it is called Lactobacillus acidophilus. So it can be used even with a slight presence of organic acids or micronutrients. Obviously, it depends on how much is the total concentration of the acid. So if you use a specific product inside your feed, please, I invite you to send me an email with the composition, the specific composition of the product. In this way, I can give you a response, being sure about the compatibility of the product with the bacteria. Okay, I give you other time for other questions. Okay, here is another question. It's possible to use the product in a shorter time in case of need. Yes, as I told you during the presentation, the best advantages may be obtained with a continuous treatment. But even in some specific condition, the administration of the product for a period may increase the resistance of the animal against the specific stress condition, avoiding a reduction of the performance of the animal. In general, after some experience, after some trial, once the veterinaries became familiar with the D2, they tend to use, even for a shorter period, 2 or 3 days, with a double, triple dosage, every time there is a stressful situation in the poultry house, as for instance, severe hot temperature, a diet change, molting, dehousing, or weakness after antibiotic treatment, or pathogens attack in a difficult hygienical condition. Okay, I receive another question. Is your product thermostable for application in pelleted feed? Unfortunately, the product is not pelletable because Lactobacillus acidophilus, as other bacteria, is not able to resist to the higher temperature of the process. It's possible to add the product to the pellet after preparing a premixing, but it's not possible to insert in the pellet production with an exposition to the higher temperature of the pelleting process. Okay. Okay, I have received another question. Have you made studies to evaluate the survival of the product in the field? Yes, we evaluated even the vitality of the bacteria after mixed with the feed. And if a blend is stored in a fresh environment, avoiding the higher temperature, bacteria may last for 15 days. As for any other freeze-drying bacteria, it's very important to store the product avoiding in the fridge, avoiding the exposition of the product to the air, the humidity, and the higher temperature. It's very important to store the package and sealed inside the fridge, avoiding the exposition to higher temperature. Yes, hardware trials done during the rearing of layers, are there effect on later performances? Yes, we have got a lot of interesting results for the production, the performance production of the laying hens, especially for the number of eggs produced, for the improvement in the thickness of the shell. With a higher amount of eggs with a higher size, and are reduced in the wastage because the eggs has got a higher resistance, so the final number of eggs that can be sold is very high, higher than the control as compared to the control group of chickens without an administration of Lactobacillus acidophilus. In general, for the laying hens, we have got a lot of parameters that we can assess, evaluating the effect of the product. And during all our scientific trials on laying hens, we observed some very interesting results for this data. Even the return on investment model that we created take in consideration these advantages in terms of production of eggs and even in the best performance, the general health state of the animal, with a reduction in morbidity and mortality as well. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me in this webinar. I hope that you found some interesting information for you, and I'm here available in the email that you are seeing on the slide for all the other questions that you retain important for your business or your interest. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a good day.